playoff participants in the West have already been determined. The Eastern race probably won't be decided until the final weekend of regular season play. As things stand this Thanksgiving Day, Ottawa and Montreal share first place. Hamilton trails by 2, and the Argos are 4 back, but they have a game in hand. However, the Argos realize that doesn't mean a thing unless they start winning. They close out the year with a home-and-home series against Calgary, a home game with Montreal, and a visit to Saskatchewan. So this afternoon, the Toronto Argonauts, in quest of an Eastern Conference playoff berth, take on the Calgary Stampeders here at McMahon Stadium. Hi, everybody. The Calgary Stampeders already eliminated from playoff contention in the West, but in the East, it's a dogfight. And Leo Cahill, this is a must game for Toronto.
No question, Don. And today it's again another situation where 2 young quarterbacks are going head-to-head. And I know that both coaches are just hoping that each quarterback will make more big plays than they'll make mistakes. And for the Toronto Argonauts, as you said, Don, it's a must game. They've got to win this game. Every game that they win now, they're playing for first place. Every game they lose, they're playing for last place. So they've got to win this football game today. The pressure is all on Ricky Turner. Greg Vavra, the quarterback for the Calgary Stampeders, he's got to go in there and play. And remember, he beat these Argos last year, Ron.
That's probably the main reason today, Leo, why Greg Vavra gets his first opportunity to start in the '85 season. Last year at CNE Stadium, he led the Stampeders to one of their few wins in the '84 year. But Greg Vavra is on the starting assignment today. The guy he's sitting down is Rick Johnson, who they feel is the quarterback of the future. And when you look at the Calgary Stampeders, they have to be looking at the future. They've got only 3 starters today that was on this football team last year, Don. So I think Calgary has the opportunity to be a spoiler. Their defense is good enough, but we'll find out.
Well, the Calgary Stampeders and Toronto Argonauts are just about set to kick it off. But first, let's go to Brian Williams, standing by for an update from Ivor Wynne Stadium in Hamilton.
And on this Thanksgiving Day, 1985, thank you, Don. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Ivor Wynne Stadium in Hamilton. I hope you're enjoying this holiday because the Hamilton Ticats are simply having a ball. With about 4 minutes to play here in the 4th quarter, they are pounding the Saskatchewan Roughriders by a score of 51-14. Let's go back to the 2nd quarter when the football game was really all over. Joe Paupow is going back to pass for the Western Riders. A good hit here from number 78, Grover Covington, forcing the fumble. Linebacker Mike Walker out of Washington State scoops it up, a 37-yard touchdown, 24-0 Hamilton. Prior to that, Kenny Hobart had passed for touchdowns to Rufus Crawford and Ron Ingram. Speaking of Ken Hobart, 3 minutes after that touchdown, 2nd and 10 from the Rider 38-yard line. Hobart, who started the week as the leading rusher in the Eastern Conference, 3rd overall behind Reeves and Jenkins, goes 38 yards for a touchdown to make it 31-0 Hamilton. We should tell you that Hobart had 83 yards rushing in the first half of the football game today, giving him 765 for the season. That is a new single-season record for a CFL quarterback, breaking the previous record held by the Edmonton Eskimos' Matt Dunnigan. Now, coming up at halftime, CFL control will come from here in Hamilton. We will talk with Ken Hobart and head coach Al Bruno. We'll have complete game highlights. We'll bring you up to date. We'll have a Blue Jays report, and we'll update that National League game, which is just underway in St. Louis. A busy afternoon. Stay with us. The opening kickoff is up next between the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Stay with us. CFL 85 continues after this. The Saskatchewan Roughriders, 51-41
here at McMahon Stadium. We're going to talk to a friend of mine, George Reed. We had a few years together as players. George, talk to you a little bit. Number one, as an ex-player and also as past president of Players Association, you've had a chance to be in Regina. Now you're living in Calgary. All the talk in the CFL this year are about the problems. How do you see them?
Well, they have some problems, Ronnie, but I think that what they have to do is get back and learn how to market this football game. I think that what we see now is that you have to be entertained when you go to a game, and all the time the entertainment doesn't have to be on the football field. There has to be a lot of things revolved around it. And I think if they, until they start getting back into something like that there, until the football team can come back, they're going to have problems drawing people.
Are the problems as severe as a lot of people make them out to be?
Well, I don't think the problems are as severe, Ronnie. We've gone through this here for many years. One team has been down, 2 teams has been down in attendance. I think the main problem, though, I think it's that tendency because of the high budgets right now, that if they don't start really progressing in the right way, that I think that they can get in serious trouble.
Do you miss being involved with the Players Association? You were president for a long time.
Well, Ronnie, I'm still involved in a way. I'm past president. I go to all the meetings and everything and sit and talk and everything. And, of course, we'll be having another meeting now at the Grey Cup this year in Montreal. And I'm looking forward to that. I think we got some interesting things that needs to be discussed, and hopefully I can contribute to that.
looking at the way the game's played today, George, you would have had a tough time setting all those records if they was going to throw the ball all the time. What do you think?
Well, I tell you what, if we had a football team like we had, we'd have still been running the football. We did what we wanted to do, and we would probably won our share of the football game still.
George, my pleasure. Great to come to Calgary now to see him. A little bit surprised at it. Anyway, we're going to go away for a commercial, and we'll be coming right back here to McMahon Stadium for more halftime and the second half right after this.
It's halftime. The Calgary Stampeders lead Toronto by a score of 11-1. Good afternoon again, everyone. I'm Brian Williams. Welcome back to a deserted Ivor Wynne Stadium in Hamilton, where earlier today the Ticats destroyed Saskatchewan 51-14. It was all over in the first half as we pick it up in the first quarter. Kenny Hobart to a wide-open Rufus Crawford, an 18-yarder, 7-0 Hamilton. In the second quarter, on the first play of the quarter, again, it's Hobart to the air. Now, you know, the knock against Hobart was he's not a good passer. Well, he's standing by. He'll tell us about that. Here's a 36-yarder to Ron Ingram out of Oklahoma State, 17-0 Hamilton. A brutal performance today by Saskatchewan. There's dissension between the head coach and the general manager. Pow Pow started at quarterback, was awful. Jordan wasn't much better. Here's Pow Pow being hit by Grover Covington, forcing the fumble in the second quarter. Linebacker Mike Walker out of Washington State scoops it up, 37-yard touchdown, 24-0 Hamilton. 3 minutes later, a 2nd and 10 from the Riders' 38-yard line. Kenny Hobart, love to dance, who started the week as the leading rusher in the East, 3rd in the CFL behind Winnipeg's Reeves and BC's Jenkins. Ken Hobart goes 38 yards for the touchdown to make it 31-0 Hamilton. Hobart is the greatest single-season quarterback rusher in all of CFL history.
Hope you're all
a very enjoyable afternoon here. Thanksgiving Day 1985 for the Hamilton Ticats. Two very happy men standing down on the field. The head coach, Al Bruno, and quarterback Kenny Hobart. Al, you've been complaining. You want to get to the dressing room. We'll talk to you first. First of all, congratulations. You have surprised an awful lot of people in this country.
Well, I don't know. I think the players are playing well. I got to go in there and see them. They did play a hell of a job. The defense played great, Brian. And, you know, those so-called experts, you know, we won more than one game. We're in the thick of it just like anybody else in our league, and I'm really happy for the coaching staff and the players.
Al, we've seen Ken pass better today than he has all year. Ken Hobart.
Ken Hobart did a great job today. He ran the ball well, and I believe he broke some kind of a record. He passed a lot better, and the offensive line gave him some protection that he needed. We caught the ball very well, and defense gave us good field position.
Dieter Brock is in Los Angeles enjoying himself there, but it looks like you found a replacement.
It looks that way. I feel good for Hobart. I feel good for Dieter Brock, and let's hope they both have winning seasons.
All right, you want to get to the dressing room. Thank you, Al Bruno. Let's move over to Kenny Hobart. Ken, I'm not sure if you're aware of the fact, but with 83 yards rushing in the first half, you have established a single-season rushing record for quarterbacks in the Canadian Football League.
I didn't know I had it until I came back out at halftime, and I heard the announcement, and you know, it's nice. The main thing is we won, and we're in contention for a first-place spot in the East, and we just need to keep it going right now.
Kenny, we've always known you've been a strong running quarterback. I think you've been bothered by the fact people have been saying Hobart can't pass. I would say you answered the critics here this afternoon.
Well, I've been told that all my life. I ran the ball my first years in college, and they said I couldn't throw the ball. And, you know, I think you take out 2 bad games I had early in the season, and I'm throwing the ball at probably about 57%. So, but I'm learning, and I'm getting better every week, and as long as our offensive line keeps playing well, and it was nice to have Johnny Shepard back. He ran tough. As long as things keep going well up front, we'll be tough at the end.
Kenny, did it bother you, the repeated references to Dieter Brock? I mean, let's face it, you had a very tough act to follow coming in here.
No, I think Dieter and I are two different people. You know, I think Dieter's he's a great quarterback, no doubt, but I think maybe my abilities are more suited to this game up here, and it would be nice to have a Dieter Brock around to play under for a year or two and learn, but you know, there's nothing like getting thrown in the middle of the action and learning that way. And I mean, I'm happy to have it that way for me.
All right, thank you, Ken Hobart. I would say you've learned rather well without Dieter Brock. Our thanks to Al Bruno and Ken Hobart. Lots more to come. In fact, right now, let's return once again to Don Whitman of McMahon Stadium in Calgary.
11-1 is the halftime score, Brian, with the Stampeders leading the Toronto Argonauts. Just one touchdown in the football game. That came very early in the first quarter as the result of a pass interference call in the end zone. That gave Calgary a first down at the 5-yard line, and newcomer Dwight Beverly put it into the end zone at 3:17. The convert by J.T. Hay, plus a single by J.T. Hay, and then a 22-yard field goal by J.T. Hay in the second quarter, plus that single by Lance Chomick, results in the 11-1 score. Just 86 yards net offense for the Argos, and the Calgary Stampeders 168 yards through the first half, and we've had 5 turnovers. We'll be back, but first let's pause for this message.
The Calgary Stampeders, and it hasn't been an outstanding half as far as offensive football is concerned, although Greg Vavra started out pretty auspiciously, but he's had 2 interceptions from the Argos that kind of broke his consistency. As far as the Argo quarterbacks are concerned, Ricky Turner was non-productive. They tried Danny Barrett, and he didn't do much better in there. They've got to do a lot better the second half. Ron, do you anticipate seeing Ricky Turner come back in here to start the second half?
I do. I really do. I think that what happened, Turner didn't go. Coach Abilovich tries Barrett to see if he gets it going. The half comes up. He figures, let's go back to the way we started a football game. It's like starting a game all over. Why not?
Absolutely. I think they're going to have to go that way, but what they're going to have to do, though, is give him a lot of support and see if they can't do something to get some points on the board early in this third quarter.
That's what they've got to do. But right now, here's the only touchdown of the first half. What it was, 5 yards on the draw play. Now we're going to start it up right now. And when the 5-yard line, you see James Curry and Dave Kersinger, number 69. All right, stop it a minute. You see number 74, Curry, running away from Kersinger. Now Kersinger will just sit there, and he'll wait on Ballard to come. Now he makes the block, bang, right there. And Bob Foley, the offensive center, goes out and blocks on Goodlow. And Paul Palmer makes his block. This is execution at its finest. There's not a white jersey for him to hit. Just jogged right on into the end zone. What do you think, Leo? Pretty well blocked?
Pretty well run play.
The line.
Well, you're going to see it again here in Beverly. As you say, the linebacker on the inside hit the wrong hole. I think when you saw Curry start to the outside, the linebacker was supposed to fill up the middle, and the linebacker, instead of stepping in the middle, he went between the guard and tackle and just got caught up in there. We see Greg Vavra. I'll tell you, this kid has impressed me a little bit for not being in there all year, in spite of the fact that he's thrown a couple interceptions, Ron.
Well, we talked about him earlier. I know you said it, that he's a very intelligent guy, and Don
A score of 28-17. Only the 3rd win of the year for Calgary. They now have a record of 3-10, 6 points in the Western Conference standings, and they're 4 points behind the Saskatchewan Roughriders. The Roughriders this afternoon lost 51-14 to the Hamilton Tiger Cats. For the Toronto Argonauts, this could be a big blow in their playoff hopes for 1985, because they are now 4 points behind Ottawa, Montreal, and Hamilton, the 3 teams that share first place in the Eastern Conference.
Yes, and for the Argonauts, it's going to be very hard to get cranked up now. And, you know, asking Conrad to come back right now, unless he's 100% well, might not be advisable either, because they've almost got to start thinking about next year. It's going to be tough to make the playoffs this year, but this young man walking off the field, number 13, Greg Vavra, showing a lot of character here this afternoon. He hasn't been in there. He knew there was pressure on the coaching staff, because the coaching staff wanted to start number 16, Johnson, Rick Johnson, in there this afternoon, but Vavra went in there in front of the hometown people and did himself proud.
Danny Barrett did not start the ball game. He replaced Ricky Turner in the second quarter. He finished the ball game for the Toronto Argonauts, but his opposite number, Greg Vavra, was able to fire the strikes when they were required in the second half, in giving the Calgary Stampeders a 28-17 victory. Well, Bud Riley, the head coach of the victorious Calgary Stampeders, is standing by down on the sidelines. And Bud, despite the fact the Stampeders are out of the playoffs, you must have seen some good things out there this afternoon from your team.
Well, we're an awful young football team, and I think the people that we brought in recently have begun to play like we think they're capable of playing, and I think they are some players for the future of this ball club.
But explain to the people just how difficult it is to get an imaginative offense when you have as many changes as you guys have had during this season. Seems like you're always teaching the playbook, aren't you?
Yeah, you're having a lot of clinics, and you have new people in every day, so you get to review your own knowledge of football, and I kind of enjoy it. You know how it is when you're making a lot of changes and you spend a lot of time talking to the players about what you're trying to do.
Well, Dwight Beverly got his first start today, and he certainly responded with better than 100 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Well, I think Beverly's going to be an excellent football player. He's a good, tough customer, and he's got good size. He's about 205, and I think he's a good football player. He can catch the ball, he can run, and he can block.
But yesterday we asked Earl Lunsford, the general manager, about next year, about you coaching the club. He said he hadn't made any decision yet. How do you feel? Would you like to coach again next year?
Well, I'm just going to wait and see how we finish up, and then we'll sit down and talk about these things. I'm not in a hurry to make any decisions. I've enjoyed both aspects of it. I was enjoying the personnel job, and now this thing coaching is in my blood so deep that it's hard to give it up.
Okay, Bud Riley, congratulations on your 28-17 victory this afternoon over the Toronto Argonauts here at McMahon Stadium. We'll be back with our Carling O'Keefe Game Stars after this match.
Supremacy. 9 CFL teams strive for a goal only one can achieve. The road to Grey Cup is challenging. Exceptional individual skills expressed in an arena of team effort. Montreal hosts Grey Cup 85. A week of festivities set the stage for the ultimate confrontation in Canadian sport. For information on Grey Cup in Montreal, dial this hotline 1-416-928-3535.
This afternoon at McMahon Stadium in Calgary, offensively, quarterback Greg Vavra, defensively, Eugene Beliveau. And first of all, let's talk with Greg Vavra, your first starting assignment of 1985. How did you feel coming into the ball game, Greg?
I was relatively nervous going into the game. I didn't really get comfortable until the second half, and even probably the fourth quarter before we started to get some things going that we wanted to do against them, and they didn't really do anything that we didn't expect. So in the fourth quarter we got the flow going, and we moved the pocket around, and we were relatively successful.
Greg, did you feel that by formation that you could get Preston Young to move over to the wide side of the field? It seemed to me like you had the short side of the field, especially that seam to Emmanuel Tolbert wide open. Did you see something in the films?
Well, what was happening there is we basically had a couple of waste downs, second down and less than a yard to go, and the call came in from the bench, and all it was four seam patterns, and they tend to play what we call a cover 3 hold, where the halfback goes to the flat. They've got 3 deep coverage, and when you put four guys in the seam against their 3 deep, it generally works pretty well for you. And we unfortunately didn't hit any of them, but they were a couple easy touchdowns.
Greg, you had a fine game today as a quarterback, but it sure had to make you feel good to have a guy like Dwight Beverly back there to take a little bit of the heat off and get that running game going.
I'll tell you what, Dwight Beverly runs the ball so hard, it's incredible. He hits what we call draw plays like they're dive plays. And when you have a guy doing that and he has a good feel for the holes, where the hole's going to open up, and the flow of the defensive front 7, it just makes it that much easier for a quarterback.
Greg Vavra, congratulations on a strong performance this afternoon. Let's switch to a man who is on the other side of the football, defensive tackle Eugene Beliveau. Eugene, you were involved in a lot of the play out there this afternoon.
Well, we had a lot of fun out there in defense. Our main concern was to keep the scramble lanes intact and stay in our pass rush lanes, and I think overall we did a good job on defense.
Did you feel that once Danny Barrett got in there that you could have a little bit more laxity as far as your rush lanes were concerned and come with a little bit more of a reckless rush than you could against Ricky Turner, for example?
Yeah, we kind of went reckless, but they're both rollout. They like to run. If we take their main number 1 receiver away, they usually try to run right away. So we try to limit that as much as possible.
Your defense was set at the beginning of the year to be as strong as anybody's in the league. I'll bet it had to be great for you today to see that offense moving the football so well to keep you on the sidelines and give you a rest.
Yeah, it was excellent. I just love to see that, and I still think we do have one of the better defenses in the league, and I just like to say I have a lot of respect for everybody in this organization, and I think we're going to be a real contender next year. We're just rebuilding right now.
Eugene Beliveau and Greg Vavra, congratulations on your selections as our Carling O'Keefe defensive and offensive game stars in a 28-17 victory over Toronto this afternoon at McMahon Stadium. One other game today in the Canadian Football League that took place at Iverwin Stadium in Hamilton, and standing by to give us a complete report on what took place between Hamilton and Saskatchewan, here's Brian Williams.